Hello, aspirants. Welcome to Insights ICANN initiative. First of all, I would like to thank the students who have wholeheartedly commented and appreciated our initiative. We would promise that this initiative would go on and we'll try to enrich your answers as much as possible. Stay with us and please do answer the questions that we give in the episodes so that you can practice good amount of questions before you face mains altogether. So let it be a two-way interaction and a two-way study, as I've always been telling. So with this, we'll go to the today's part of ICANN, which is, I think, filled with a quite few philosophical perspectives. So be ready for a brainstorming session. So the first topic here is related to British writer Samantha Harvey has written a book called Orbital, which has won Booker Prize for fiction category. So this book has a lot of relevance in our GS papers in different contexts. Let's quickly analyze what this book actually is talking about. So thought-provoking ideas from the book. The first idea is about, or before going to that, let me tell you what this book is placed in. It's a fiction, that is, it's a story written and placed in International Space Station, where astronauts from different countries have to spend 24 hours of their life in the space station. So when they are looking at the Earth, how they reflect on ideas of humanity, Earth's obsession with its own people, and cosmos. So in this analysis, we have picked up some four important items from the book that would be very relevant in our answers. We'll also see how to use it in our answers as well, right? So the first one is Earth as a jewel. The author, Samantha Harvey, calls Earth as a jewel in her novel, which means that, Earth is just like a gem, or let's say like a diamond that is placed in a dark universe. So the color of the cosmos in the space is usually connected to be dark or black. Against that dark backdrop, Earth shines like a diamond. So hence she refers Earth as a gem or a jewelry. The second idea is above and beyond. That is, from above, these astronauts discuss about the motherly nature of Earth. They have a discussion that how Mother Earth as a feature of feminine activity always has an attachment to her children, and despite what the children do to her, she always expresses her love and makes sure environmental services are protected and provided to her children all the time. So this is striking the environmental chord in the astronauts is something we can tell. Then the author also mentions about the smallness of humanity, that is the grand scale of nature. When we talk about the huge mountains, the huge ideas like mighty ocean, unlimited sky. So this nature or earth that we tell is in a huge grand scale versus human beings. We the human beings who are almost insignificant part of this nature. So this makes us reflect about the idea that being so insignificant proportion of the nature, how much have we tried to ruin the nature's reality by climate change and other phenomena, by polluting waters, poisoning rivers. So this idea was very well explained. So you can easily relate that COP29 is going on in Azerbaijan, and how we, the insignificantly present human being, is trying to alter the ideas of grand scales of the world. At the same time, we can also link it to the concept of geoengineering, where we have gone to the extent of modifying Earth's original atmosphere for human benefits. So in these topics, smallness of humanity as an idea expressed by Samantha Harvey in her book Orbital can find a very good mention. The fourth point is extremely relevant for our ethics paper. So the author tells about the dual nature of human being, that is two face of a coin, or we can tell Janus faced as well here, where a person is having two different faces. So one face here is about creating beautiful stuff, or let's say creativity. Man today has gone to the extent of reaching space, reaching Mars, trying to counter gravity in the nature and achieve all these feats by their creativity and technological prowess. the same individual is having another face in the form of violence, in the form of greed. So we must tell, if this creativity is utilized for the betterment of humanity, Earth will be a better place. If we use the same creativity with selfish motives, pursuing violence and greed, Earth is not suitable for anyone. So please remember, this book has a lot of implications in our GS papers, especially if you look into this essay of 2024. So what this essay is telling: forests precede civilizations and desert follow them. So it is just a small essay where we are stressing about how environmental conservation is extremely relevant at the modern time when climate change is standing at our doorstep. So in such essays, just imagine you begin your answer with the idea of planet as a jewel, smallness of humanity, civilized savages, and despite all this, Earth expressing her motherhood. It would be a beautiful way of introducing your answers. So do note down about this topic in your note making. The second article is about an article from Deccan Herald, where there was the topic related to hormone replacement therapy undergone by a person, from which helped him to change himself from Aryan to Ananya. So hormone replacement therapy is a way to add hormones like estrogen or testosterone based on one's identity. That is, transgenders usually use this therapy to help align with their physical characters along with their gender identity. So gender identity being a emotional construct or a mental construct, physical features going into terms with that will make a transgender accept their own reality in a better way, or would try to go through a proper social acceptance in this process. But the journey has not been easy for Aryan, who used to be an important player in India's cricket teams in many few matches, where you can see the picture of the person with Virat Kohli here. But due to a change in the gender identity, he had to undergo a hormone replacement therapy recently, and now has almost converted his physical appearances in the form of Ananya here. But the problem comes with the idea that International Cricket Chamber doesn't allow trans women to participate in cricket. So if you see here, the person here has had to choose whether to stay with the idea that their gender identity is women but physically they are men, or choose a reality that they are women but give up the passion about cricket. So if it was for a common man, passion would be the only way they would follow, but as an individual here has to face a lot of social taboos and identity crisis, they are having to choose between the career versus one's own identity. So when we discuss this topic, there are many ethical and social perspectives that come into picture. We'll quickly discuss that with another example that took place in Olympics recently, where Imane Khelis, an Algerian boxer, competed from women category in her country and even won gold. But she was excessively trolled on social media for being a man throughout her life. But after undergoing hormone replacement therapy, she became a woman. So there were many rounds going on where people were telling she has to be disqualified due to her gender identity, may not be suitable to fight in a battle equally with a woman in a women's category. But the Olympics Association allowed her to pay in the women category, and she has brought good laurels to her country as well. So if you see the relevance of this topic in our ethics, we understand that in paper 4, it has relevance to ideas like empathy, where psychological challenges of gender dysphoria or confusion and the need for compassionate policies to address them would be very much relevant for a bureaucrat. It also talk about the minority community here. The minority communities being the transgenders, who have addresses, it actually talks about the obligation that the society and policymakers have to make them feel protected. So that concept would be relevant here. At the same time, as an administrator, what initiatives you would take to make public awareness and campaigns and welfare schemes to make them inclusive in your policy making. So remember, this would be relevant in our paper 4 in this manner. So at the same time, if we see how it is useful in paper 1, Indian society, where we talk about usually ideas like gender roles. What a man needs to do, what a woman needs to do is determined by our traditions. So this gender identity of a transgender goes against social acceptance because which role of a male or a female are they following gets conflicted. So do remember, when you talk about gender identity and gender division of labor, don't forget to mention the gender role and gender crisis of transgenders as well. So if you just check its relevance in essays, then definitely we have a question or in essay with respect to, we have topics like identity, authentication of a individual. Identity and authentication is especially needed to explore courage. So if you see, there was an essay previously asked about an unexamined life is not worth living. So for people who are having gender identity crisis, if they don't introspect and want to adapt what they feel, they would never be able to live with themselves in their own bodies. And if society doesn't encourage this as well, we are going to see an identity crisis and authenticity crisis, making the life of the individuals and the society at peril. So the second concept related to essay we can use here is related to social inclusion, that is making inclusive spaces for marginalized communities such as LGBTQIA+. Then we can also talk about broader concept of personal freedom. Personal freedom versus social norms. What are the norms society makes for us? Should we abide by them or listen to the call of our consciousness is the idea here. So let's say if you get a question like authenticity is the key to true happiness, inclusivity is the foundation of a progressive society. So in such cases, this example of Aryan to Ananya or Emain Khalif would be a very good way of even starting your answers. So we'll end this topic with a quote told by Emain Khalif, where she has told, clothes do not make a monk and appearance does not reveal the essence of a person. It means that clothes will not determine what kind of a person you are, plus your appearances do not reveal what is the true personality that is hidden within you. Hence, it is all about a perception that a person has in their life, and how they think about themselves is what matters for social reality. The third topic is from the text and context section of the Hindu newspaper itself. It talks about the quest for freedom. Is the will truly free? That is, in freedom we talk about our will being not determined or constrained by external agencies, and we are able to make decisions in our life based on our own thought process. But is it really the happening so, or is any other considerations impacting us even without our knowledge? So this philosophical topic here had many deep discussions, but I found this single quote could be very relevant for our UPSC mains, especially essay and ethics. So if you see here, the quote goes by the saying that if consciousness is determined by existence, then existence in turn is reshaped by consciousness. So it is about how one's own perception will decide how we live our life. At the same time, how our lifestyle changes our perceptions about many things. So this quote I felt is very deep in its understanding and has a lot of implication when you write essays on philosophy for our mains. So if you see, consciousness here is shaping the existence and vice versa. It would be having multiple application, as I told you, in philosophy, in psychology as well, and in social related topics as well. So we'll quickly check how this is going to be useful in our answers. So if you see, we get any philosophical essays related to reality. And let's say they ask us something on marriage or many perceptions in which we live today may be false or unfalse. So here, when we are exploring the nature of reality, we can see how subjective one's personal experiences are and how these experiences how one's personal experiences influence the way we see the world. So if you see there is a kid who experiences domestic violence since his childhood, tries to perceive that the whole world is violent in this format, marriage and family always is a tool for violence, and if you want to get something done, using the force method is something that would work out. So this tells that one's personal experience influence the reality and not the only other way around. While the physical world also influences how we think and perceive, right? So when we are analyzing the ideas of reality, is it the reality of domestic violence that has shaped the child perception, or becoming violent in his adulthood, is that determining the reality? So in this kind of analysis, please remember to use the philosophical essays on reality. Remember to use the paradox of consciousness is determined by existence, or existence in turn is reshaping the consciousness. Right? So let's say we get an essay related to psychology or with the topic of human behavior. So when we talk about human behavior, when we talk about ideas like emotions, how anybody responds to a particular challenge or thought that they face in their life, all of it is related to one's personal experiences. At the same time, the outer ideas like the setup, let's say we can take the perspective of Gaza war here, where many children are exposed to fear, threat and other challenges. What would they end up as adults is a big question mark, and this war might end with a peace treaty or might not. The inner war that these children face is a constant reality we can talk about. Hence, even in human behavior questions, we can use the quote, if consciousness is determined by existence, then existence is in turn shaping the consciousness. And also, free will is a myth in such cases. So when we talk about ideas related to social or cultural topics, related to social or cultural topics, we can analyze it with the ideas of how cultural norms and values shapes the individual consciousness, how it guides people to view themselves and others. So individuals also gain awareness and challenge these norms. They reshape the culture itself in perception. If you see, we have many a times told about cultures like, let's say, some practices like sati which has been followed. So people were influenced by this to a great extent. But then there came a transformative renaissance phase where people told this culture is not good, and we changed the culture itself into dignifying women or giving them equal treatment. So in all those ideas, do talk about the concept of free will or consciousness shaping one's identity and vice versa. So again, if we get a question in our essay based on personal growth, we do have content from this topic. So personal development can be told that it is not a one-way street. While our beliefs and thoughts can definitely shape our reality by motivating us to take actions and aligning us with our goals, many circumstances like how we meet people, some kind of challenges we face in our life, all of them also shape our consciousness. So as UPSC aspirants, we have come here with the inner motive or conscious thought that we are going to clear the exam. However, the way we try to meet our teachers here, the way we meet our mentors here, it also changes many perceptions about the reality of UPSC and the kind of dedication that goes into it. So it may mold your ideas on clearing the exam or making you more focused and integrated. So especially this concept would be relevant in ideas like mental health as well. Let us know how would you like to use this idea of consciousness in mental health. At the same time, when we get any example based on technology and reality, it again strikes a chord here, because at a time when real technology is trying to blur the gap between real and unreal, this concept of merging of mind and machine definitely helps us to shape our perception of existence and also consciousness. I know this became too deep and too philosophical, but yes, try to analyze a few topics in this perspective as well, because UPSC expects you to be a philosopher at times, looking at the way they have been asking us the essays. So let's say we get an essay on a topic like the mind is everything, what you think you become. So Buddha has popularly told about it. So if you get essays in this manner, do remember this analysis. You can develop your examples and perspectives from this introduction part.
The next topic here is definitely a very common one related to addressing education inequity. You would have read a lot of articles related to this in your aspirant life. And just yesterday's episode itself, we have discussed about Delhi government's initiative in making education an enjoyable experience. You can just add on to that part with this analysis, which had come up again in the newspaper of Deccan Herald. Okay, so what are the challenges according to this article? We'll just quickly look into. So the author tells that one of the major challenges faced here is the closest to the problem. That is, any problem related to education might be the pedagogy or the kind of syllabus that goes into it, how we teach to the people, what is the infrastructure, what are the crises that comes. So who faces all of these problems with close proximity to kids? It is none other than teachers. However, the teachers often lack agency to design solutions for it. So, when it comes to creating syllabus, when it comes to using teaching material, when it comes to developing infrastructure, teachers have no major role here in decision making process, which is a biggest paradox of our education system. The second issue is most of the decisions are centralized here, where policymakers sitting at the top try to decide what is needed to the children at the ground level, especially in the rural setup. When we do this analysis from the top, it would be a top down approach, not making the policies effective, which has been the reality in India's education system, right? The last challenge or quite unique challenge is talking about one size fits all approach. That is, as we have always seen, India has been an extremely diverse country with economic diversity, social diversity, with regional diversities, linguistic diversities. So if we have so much of differences in our reality, how about making a single new education policy that would roundabout apply on the entire country? That would definitely not make a recipe for a successful educational reform. So the author has compared this to the model during COVID. So let's say the author compared that four member stakeholder model. So here civil society, that is general public, would be an important stakeholder, government would be an important stakeholder, then we can say market players would be an important stakeholders, and media will be an important stakeholders. So let's say this example the author gave during COVID time, when government and the public together implemented the ideas of social distancing, public masking, made it a successful campaign. Market tried to provide vaccines as soon as possible so that they were able to do away with the diseases, and media played an attentive role in spreading awareness. So this combination made India's COVID fight more victorious and tried to help us to be on par with other developed countries, or kind of reduce our mortality. So same model of civil society, government, market, and media, if we apply to education, let's see how it will fare. So if you combine civil society and government, we get the idea of parent interaction in education, parent interaction in education, and community being involved in what needs to be taught to the children at the ground level for surviving in a particular place, and they would combinedly set standards for how to take forward the education in the local area. So this parent and community integration with the government setting standards and civil society or general public participating in it would go a long way in reforming a good model. And when we now talk about collaboration between government and markets, so let's say the parents here identified that our school children need a good infrastructure or a building. So market here can provide viable alternatives to cheaper buildings and yet effective and strong buildings. They can take many innovative ideas like digital classrooms into the blackboards, create interactive lab sessions for the children, and this is how government and market react and respond to each other and fulfill the needs of the society. At the same time, if we rope in media into the same equation, media's role will engage. Media would engage the public and keep the public constantly updated about what is happening in the education sector. At the same time, it would celebrate many successful stories of imparting education. So it would successfully celebrate dedication of many people and the government. So this model is a fourfold model here, integrating the four major stakeholders of the society to make education a successful game. So remember this model for any of the governance related schemes. It may be health, it may be education, it may be topics like digital divide or addressing the digital gap. This model is really a beautiful one, and you can do the pictographic representation as well here. This article ended with a quote of Mahatma Gandhi, which would be useful in your essays on education. So, the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problem. That is, we visualize about working hard, but when in reality we don't work so hard. So that gap, if we bridge it, definitely we as a society will excel in solving any of the problems, is the crux of this topic. So coming to the most important part of today's episode, as I had promised, we'll discuss the theory of simulation. It's quite an interesting theory proposed by Jean Baudrillard, a sociologist. So Jean Baudrillard mentions about the theory of simulation, where he tells that basically simulation is an idea which means that to copy the original or to substitute reality. Okay, just to copy an original. Let's, like how we have many fake brands and products to compete with the original ones, simulation is an idea to imitate the original. So what the author here tells us that at a time when we are in social media, this time has blurred the gap between reality and simulation. That is, we take the case of deep fakes here. Deep fakes takes us to an identity that we believe what happening is true, but when we analyze, that's not the original image at all. So reality, about if we tell that if there is something that is very real, it is often manipulated in the current times. It is manipulated to influence perception of the people. So what would be the advantage of it? This perception or this manipulated reality gives birth to a concept called hyper reality. So hyper reality is a situation where simulations are perceived as real. Let's take, for example, we have seen many soap and detergent apps coming up, advertisements coming up in the news earlier in our childhood. In most of them, we see celebrities endorsing a product. But if you see, the cost of a product would be very reasonable and affordable, and it is highly unreal that a celebrity would be using them in their real life. But still they try to portray that this particular soap or detergent or any product is extremely good in your life. So as humans and as fans of these celebrities, we tend to believe in this hyper reality that even this actor or actress uses the product and I also should use them. So remember the concept of hyper reality. It's going to go a long way in very good philosophical essays. So let us see how we can use the concept. Or before that, I had spoken about the Hollywood movie which has covered the theory of simulation. It's none other than The Matrix. So here, Matrix movie is based on a computer generated simulation where the main character Neo, this civilization actually is controlled by a better civilization, or let's say a set of species that are more developed and more technologically advanced than human beings, and they tend to control earth as a simulator. That is, they have created an unreal version of themselves in the form of earth and the species, and we in our daily lives are controlled by the strings used by these superior species. So this main character called Neo, he is recruited by a group to discover that what is the truth about this whole matrix or artificial setup that's created, and fight against the machines that are controlling humanity, machines created by the super species, how they are controlling involving humanity. To decode this, the movie has been scriptured based on the theory of simulation. But as the main protagonist goes on to explore the difference between the real life and the machine controlled life, he delves into deeper questions about what exactly is real and how much control we have on our own lives. So this movie is very thought provoking. Do try to watch it from a philosophical perspective. So if we see the application of this in our essays, first we'll come to GS paper 1. In paper 1 we have a topic called impact of globalization on Indian society. One of the impact has been consumerism. Consumerism, like how we usually see McD tells that a burger tastes good with Coke, or we see that Domino's portrays the idea that it's best tasted it with Pepsi or some other soft drink. So we are sold this idea in such a way that we believe the food stuff in this companies cannot be eaten without the partnered drinks. So they usually show the exaggerated versions of reality to influence consumer behavior. So that is an example of how consumerism as a concept, when you get in paper 1, do mention about the hyper reality that consumerism propagates, right? So next, when it comes to GS paper 4, we get many case studies in our paper 4 where there are many people, or let's say our own citizens in our district, are influenced by many fake news and kind of fear mongering in the society. Like a few years ago, there was a fake news spreading that some people are kidnapping children and there are child lifters in the city. So if you find somebody who is unusually moving, try to beat them. And there were many cases of mob lynching as well. So how this situation ended up, it happened, all this occurred just because people believed in a hyper real news. It was a fake news and had nothing to do with reality. So it, as a collector or as an administrator, you need to identify this particular hyper reality that is existing in your district and have some measures to manage it very well. At the same time, if you want to use this in your essays, the very relevant way in which we can use it in was 2024 essay topic itself, related to FOMO. So FOMO is about the anxiety among youngsters, especially those actively present on social media, that my friends or peers are having such a beautiful and a happy and a wonderful life, but my life doesn't have it. So they fail to understand the reality that the social media content usually talks about happiness and positivity in one's life rather than speaking about the reality. So with the pain that they undergo, the trauma that they undergo in their daily life, their challenges, the issues that they face, none of them are discussed. Only a happy picture is posted. This makes the youngsters gets influenced by this hyper reality that everything is good in their life and that I don't have this standard in my own lifestyle. So social standards are set by the social media, which is showing that you are not acceptable in a particular group. So youngsters who are influenced by this hyper reality are getting impacted by an anxiety called FOMO, right? So this is about the theory of simulation. Try to brainstorm more and more essay topics in this manner and stay with us for more such discussions. Thank you so much.